Hello there, welcome back to Legends with Derka, and today I wanted to share with you what is quickly becoming my favorite way to play a brawling battleship with full secondaries. You're going to need a good German battleship for the job, a high-level Cilliax, and this special inspiration as the cherry on top. Let's go check it out. Alright, I don't condone whaling for anything, and this inspiration does indeed cost money, but the guy I'm referring to is Justinian Lyons from the first Warhammer 40k collaboration. He is an American battleship commander, but what we care about is his base trait for use as an inspiration. So, let's go check out this build. You could use it on Brandenburg, Bismarck, GK, and to a lesser extent Friedrich Der Grosse. I'll show you how old Justinian fits in here. Modules: secondary battery, prop, concealment, and secondary module, again for these German heavy hitters. The build is Cilliax, Porcupine, Master Mechanic, Fight Fire with Fire. Most notably, the inspirations though are going to be Von Hipper and Justinian Lyons. Now Lyons' base trait is going to increase your fire chance 40% while using a repair party, and it's also going to increase your damage you're dealing while that repair party is active. So every high explosive shell flying from your Bismarck or your Brandenburg is going to have a 40% chance of starting a fire, and you can quickly see how powerful this could be. Let's go ahead and look at a clip that is basically a perfect example of what you can achieve with this build. Now, the build was shared to me from a member of my Discord, Zwei, who happens to be the world XP record holder for Bismarck, so a special thank you to him. In this clip, we see the perfect use of a heal and the secondary targeting module to basically light this Colorado on fire. 4 fires in this instance. So again, a perfect case scenario. It doesn't always happen this clean and this wonderful, but I mean, if you quad fire somebody and it's permanent, it's game over for them. Okay, the game in the background will also show off the power of this build, but not fully. Keep that in mind, because there are parts of this build that are very important to work. For starters, pay attention, do not use will to rebuild, like I put on in this particular game. Yes, I know the 3 blind mice could see if you're running will to rebuild thanks to Wargaming's new positioning of the legendary skill indicator, but don't do this. Put on Fight Fire with Fire or Running with Scissors, and here's why. The main strength of this build is very obviously becoming a flamethrower to anything within your secondary range or main gun range while your heal is activated. Will to Rebuild reduces the duration of a heal by 50% at Legendary 4 while increasing your healing power, so you get the same amount out of a heal, it's just faster. But that is bad for this build. A 28-second Brandenburg heal will only last 14 seconds if you have a 16-4 Cilliax. You want the heal to last as long as possible so you have more opportunities to set fires. Therefore, in this game, I really shot myself in the foot with this build and I clicked the wrong legendary perk. I am sure I could have definitely caused a lot more fires and got a lot more than the 150k that I did get. Another example for Bberg in this game. 24-second main battery reload means that if you used a heal, you could get 2 salvos off in that one heal. That is 24 HE shells that each have a fire chance of 67%. So yes, do not use will to rebuild. Plus it's a busted perk anyways. Alright, the next big piece of the ensemble is having Master Mechanic on and having it appropriately leveled up. If you're at a level 16, it's going to give you 2 extra heals, and that can leave you with not only more health in this up close and kind of brawling role, but obviously more opportunities to, you guessed it, set fires throughout the game. And I think having this and the extra heals is more important than using properly meticulous. That's my 2 cents. You could test out both, see what you like. Okay, so I want to give you some gameplay tips for this specific build to make it work a little better for you. I would point out though, before we move on, another great ship for this build is Big Mamie. American Massachusetts, the Tier 7 premium battleship, is fantastic. In that case over there, I would use Willis Lee, everything mentioned above, except in slot 4, you might as well keep artillery plotting room, just because of how ridiculously good it is to have that 11% dispersion buff. But Big Mamie has the second most accurate secondaries in the entire game, so she's fantastic as a secondary battleship. Graf Zeppelin is actually first now, if there's some useless information for you. Alright, so the first tip that I would give you for this build is you have to pay attention to people cycling damage cons. You're going to find it's often a habit that whenever you take a large chunk of damage in a brawling battleship or any battleship, you usually smash the heal button to regain a little bit of health to try to stay alive. It's just a habit. With this setup though, you're going to want to try to save the heals for golden opportunities to score permanent fires. That is basically the goal, like that Colorado earlier. If you can get as many permafires on people as you can, that's going to be big damage numbers. So that means paying special attention to enemies who snuff out single fires or floods or knocked engines or anything like that. As soon as you notice a red ship doing that, that would be a great time to smash your heal button as well as your secondary targeting consumable and watch the world burn. Another little tip, I don't want to get too in-depth with this, but trying to avoid fight fire with fire battleships, it might be best just to honestly try to set 2 fires on enemy BBs, and after that, immediately switch targets. You can do that by clicking RB in Xbox, bringing up your comm wheel, and then the Y button to change target priority for your secondary guns. So set 2 fires, switch targets. Tip 3. Brandenburg specifically, like mentioned earlier, I would choose to fire HE on purpose. It works pretty good for Bismarck as well because she also has, has a 24-second reload with Brawler on. So shoot HE, initially set a fire. You may be greeted with a damage con immediately because our player base is not great. And then in that case, go back to step 1 and then follow it through and try to set some permanent fires. Now with Big Mamie, I really would never switch to HE just because the AP shells over there are fantastic. But for these brawling German battleships, it's a very good strategy to do. So with those tips, you kind of get the premise of how to use this build, and once you start getting better at it, it's pretty great, but more importantly, it's a lot of fun. It's very addicting to just see 3 and 4 fires pop up on your screen at the click of a button. Now, let me be the first to say, don't wail for this build because you perceive it as overpowered. That is not the case at all. I think it's a very good build, no doubt, but it's definitely not idiot-proof, and it's not a tier 6 Weimer. Brawling secondary BBs are not the meta in this game. I still think they can be pretty difficult to use. And again, not idiot proof. Ask me how I know. A few weeks ago, I was testing this build, got a little too excited on a push, and got focused by maybe 6 or 7 ships, and let's just say it was a 300 base XP game. So not every game is going to be a killer, not every game is going to get you 10 fires and 100k. It's sometimes it can just be the luck of the draw. Brawling secondary BBs can be good in the right scenario, but again, like mentioned, long-range HE spam and stealthy DDs are probably the meta. Now, if you have a good division and a proper DD screen or a radar cruiser with you, that could be awesome. Or, hey, maybe you have a destroyer that's going to bail you out with smoke, like the Shimakaze did for me. That is also awesome. You definitely have to be patient, make the right moves, and wait till the time is right before making your pushes. German battleships, they're heavily armored usually, but they suffer from being able to take a devastating amount of damage in the superstructure. Way too much, and I think it makes them very, very vulnerable. So a couple little tips to help you with your brawling battleships. 1, you have to know if you can make a push and when to. Generally that means knowing if there are DDs on the enemy team and where they are. Bismarck and the Grosser Kurfurst is not as big of a deal as Brandenburg and Big Mamie because they have sonar, but yes, you cannot push directly into DDs generally, especially at the start of a match. Using islands to mask your approach can also help, kind of like we're trying to do here. We're trying to get in a little closer to the islands so that I can shoot the Yamato with impunity, let my secondaries hit him, and go dark while not shooting my main guns. As soon as this plane goes away, we'll be able to achieve that. The next tip, have an escape plan. This game, at the beginning of it, you might have noticed that I started nosed out and I kind of backed in initially, and there was a lot of reasons for this. 1, 3 destroyers in the game for starters. Didn't want to push and be aggressive there. On top of that, at the very start, I was going to be the first and only ship targeted because there was only a destroyer in front of me, so yes, I would have been the only ship targeted and focused. Also, on this map, most players tend to camp behind this island over here where the Yamato is. You generally, cruisers and HE spammers like to sit there. Also, on this map, those spawning in the middle over here generally always come over here to this side to the C spawn. So it's generally overloaded with a lot of enemy ships, and all of that stuff together meant that we had to play cautious at the beginning of the game. Doesn't mean you're a backline Betty, it just means you're kind of waiting for the right opportunity to smack the Reds. Now, in this game, we are up on points, but we're losing by ships, so this could be a close one for sure. There's still 2 enemy DDs, and that's going to make things interesting. So we're going to try to head towards the B cap because we pretty much have C locked down, and I'm going to see if I can't intercept a couple of these destroyers. Now, how would this build look on the Friedrich Der Grosse? I know a lot of people have tier 8 ships on the brain right now, so yeah, I think you could port this one over to the FDG. The only thing I didn't like about it was she only comes, comes with 2 stock heals. Yes, I guess that's the same as the GK as well. I think it just hurts the viability of this build just a little bit. 5 heals seems to be the gold standard for this one. You're going to get a lot more bang for your buck with that extra heal. Freddy does have exceptional secondary accuracy, though. I've been finding that out firsthand. If you've tried a secondary build on that ship, let me know. I'd be curious to hear what you guys think of it. I guess overall, I thought FDG might be in the running for the weakest of the tier 8 battleships, but I could be wrong. I have watched her played on PC quite a bit, and she seems decent over there, but one important thing to note is on PC, German battleships have a very important buff that they received several updates ago over the Legend German BBs. They received American dispersion ellipses. That's right, on the PC version of the game, there is no German dispersion that we loathe over here. They enjoy American dispersion. Now, granted, their sigma values are of course generally lower than American BBs. For instance, Bismarck, Tirpitz, Brandenburg all have a sigma of 1.8, and Iowa, Alabama, and Missouri have a sigma of 1.9. Okay, 2 DDs in the middle. We pre-fired some torpedoes, just wondering if one of them might come out to rush me. We'll see how that plays out. In this game, I would point out just how far secondary builds have come over these last few years. The launch of German battleships was about exactly 3 years ago. That is I think it came out for the 1st year anniversary, that line. The Bayern, the Gneisenau, the Bismarck, and secondaries were an absolute joke. But buff after buff, they have gotten better and better. And right now, I think they can be downright scary, especially for destroyers that get too close. So that Fletcher made a good play in simply running away, getting in smoke, and hiding. And I'm going to try to go unspotted and just survive. We're going to win this one on points if I can just live. I do have will to rebuild, but there's no one around that's going to help me use it. And man, this game would have probably been a lot higher scoring and a lot more damage had I done this build correctly. But hey, hindsight's 2020. So with this, guys, we are going to disappear into the abyss. Our Shimakaze finished off the other battleship over on C-Cap, and with that, this one's going to be a win. So, what's your guys' go-to secondary build? Have you tested this one out, or do you think you might look for it in the future if Warhammer comes back, which of course it will? Let me know in the comments section down below. I would appreciate that, and I would also appreciate if you smashed the like button. That would help the channel out greatly. Be sure to subscribe for future content so that you don't miss a video. Catch you guys in the next one. See ya.